right in the middle of Nerd HQ in Petco Park, which I cannot find the entrance of. I had to loop all the way around Petco Park. I will never forget where the entrance is. When I go back next year, was Alien Isolation. They had the
They
setup.
were isolated.
They had, yeah, it was very, well, no, it was actually very noisy and busy in there. It was right next to the big Nerd HQ stage where they were bringing all the celebrities on. But I didn't have time. I ran in, played Alien, got out. And they had the same general setup, which was kind of nice. It was isolated. It was in like their own little booth, and they had partitions up so you could get your, put your sweaty headphones on and like actually get into it.
But you didn't do the pod, didn't you say?
I didn't do the pod.
Should've
Yeah,
done the pod.
yeah, they had a giant egg pod that you could go in, and I don't know. It seemed
done it.
Yeah, it seemed like at its worst it would be some gimmick. At its best, it would actually be terrifying, kind of maybe. And maybe I don't know. Maybe I just I chickened out. I'm sorry, Mike. Next year I'll own up to it. If we get a sequel to the game. I finally beat it. Thank God. I played the demo 4 times at E3 and got my ass handed to me. Did you play at E3?
No.
And have you played any of Alien
No,
Isolation?
I've not played it. I've seen it.
So I played. So this one demo, it definitely was more of a story-specific thing. The E3 demo was just kind of like, hey, you're on the ship, go get to this point. Where there was a lot more people talking to me. There were actually a couple of non-controllable moments. There was one where I had to hack something, and I'll actually get into hacking. It was very clever. But I'd hacked something when I finally finished it. It's like the classic horror movie where it's like the happy moment, like, oh yay, and then you hit them like right with something scary, and she like raises her head up, like, all right, and then like something drops and you see the alien walk out, and then she like hides under a desk, and like the tail like wraps itself over the side of the desk like right next to her face. Which it's the game, obviously you want to like get away from those scripted moments, but at the same time it helps because like potentially you could not see the alien. Like if you just happen to not be in the same place where it is, you could just waltz right over there and not encounter it. So I can imagine they'll have these kind of scripted moments where they're like just to scare you and introduce you to it and let you get a long good look at it. We'll set those parts up.
What is, or is there, do you know if there is a penalty for death? Because I feel like that is a huge factor in being scared and feeling the tension. Because if you just go out, alien sees you, kills you, and you die, and then it's like, all right, reload a couple minutes prior, and then do the same part again. Is there kind of a penalty for death? Do you lose resources, or?
I couldn't really tell from the demo. There are really no resources. It's all tool-based, So everything that I was doing, it's like I have to get this tool. If I get to a terminal, I can't open that door because the power's not on. Okay, I open the power, now I gotta get back to it. But now that the power's on, everything's noisy, so it's attracted the alien, so he's now in that area. So yeah, and that actually was a concern of mine that I made it through in one pass, thank God. And so when I finished, I thought like, man, if I died in the middle of that and I had to go all the way back, it would be a bummer.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it is kind of a fine line. There were definite checkpoints. There were definitely points where like you got to that point. It was the objects glow, but they did a good job of like. There are terminals, but the one you need to use is like bright green. So it's when you walk into a room, because I'm playing the whole demo like this, just like crouched. And so like I did have that fear, crouched and out of focus, because I'm looking at the scanner,
which
and it
I love.
blurs everything out, which is a cool effect. But it's like I told the guy when I walked out, I'm like, you have a gorgeous game. I didn't see any of it because I literally saw a table, and just constantly out of focus because I'm checking my scanner. But
there is one concern too I've had. They haven't shown any of the combat against the droids.
Yeah, and that wasn't in there at all.
So, I mean, how is that going to be? Is that going to mess up the pacing of the game and the whole vibe? I mean, is it going to turn into the shooting game halfway through that we haven't seen?
I really think you have to break this up. I mean, it plays well as a demo because they can just put this one, get to point A to point B. There's the demo. If you get killed by the alien, sorry. If you just are unlucky and just happen to cross its path. But I don't think you can do that for a whole 10, 12, 14-hour experience. So I think, if you change that up and get used to the physicality of like fighting things, aiming, trying to get a headshot, trying to sneak up behind somebody and actually like hit it with something, and then boom, there's that alien, and like you can't do anything. You just got to get out of there.
If they nail that pacing, going from for like an hour or so of the game, you're fighting the droids, you're feeling good, and then all of a sudden, alien comes in and it turns back into like sneaking around and all that. That'd be great.
One thing that they did very well too that I think will play up well with like you were saying, like going up against different enemies is you might not necessarily know what enemy you're going up against. So you might like go into a room that is completely pitch black. You just have your flashlight, and you know, like, I don't want that alien to see the flashlight because then it'll see where I am. And I heard a noise. What is that? Is that a human? Is that a robot? Or is that the alien? So you don't really know who to trust. I see a light flashing over there. Is that something waiting to kill me, or is that just some stupid light? There were lots of moments where, like, I'd go in a hallway and I see a shadow and be like, oh my God, there's a shit. What is that? Oh, it's just that little beaker thing dipping up and down, or like that robot. There was one robot. That was like a little toy or something. It was just a little head bouncing up and down. Yeah. And it was like terrifying. Like the actual, like, you know, because the shadows that it would like, they had lights always like behind something. So it would just, you know, there's just lots of things to be distracted by. And you kind of have to trust that, you know, your little sensor there to figure out where to go. Really quick, remember that point. The before I forget, the hacking I thought was really clever. It was little Tetris pieces, but they kind of lumped them all together. So imagine like little Tetris designs, little pixelated patterns, and then you take like 4 of them, they're all the same color, and then you put them together. So it makes one big image. And then with the analog stick, you have to move it to one corner of your little scanner thing to be able to hack it. So when you get to that point, you have to hold that, and then you have to look at the pattern and select. So say one is like 2 little dots on the top and 1 dot on the bottom. Well, you have to look at this giant pattern and look at the left and be like, okay, what is that? Oh, there's a thing on the top and a thing on the bottom. Where does that end? Maybe right around there. What does that thing look like? Okay, it's that, and then it takes it away. And then you move on. Then you move on to the next thing. And then which it may or may not be, but again, just because it's put into the context of this huge game, it's like maybe this thing's breathing down my neck. I don't know.
I always appreciate unique hacking and lockpicking.
It was clever. I hadn't seen it before. Yeah, and again, it's something that you have to like actually look at. It's not something, you know, you have to use your brain and your, you know, dexterity.
So the game is clearly made with fans of the franchise in mind. And now with the inclusion of Sigourney Weaver and a lot of the original cast, it is safe to say that this game is part of the canon. I mean, people are definitely going to take it a lot more seriously that she is involved. And does it concern you, the story that you play as Amanda 15 years later, that it is kind of in this middle ground between Alien and Aliens? I mean, as a huge fan of the franchise, are you okay with them exploring this?
Totally. Yeah, no, I'm way down. It felt very lonely. Like the whole time you were in the demo, this guy was talking to you, and like the sound wasn't that great. I liked in the demo lead up where they're explaining things, they have subtitles, but you could barely read them because it's like the old VHS grain. Nice. And so I felt very distant from everybody else. Like I really felt, even though there are other humans on the ship, obviously, and I am speaking directly to people. I can get on the phone and talk to them anytime I want. Well, not as a gameplay mechanic, but like the technology is there. In her world, it still felt like I was very far apart. You know, kind of like BioShock, where you're just the people are checking in with you constantly, and like, okay, great, you made it to this point. Now all you got to do is make it to this point. And you know, like when the alien first showed up, you know, so she was breathing really heavily and saying, you know, saying into the microphone like it's in the room, you know. So they played that up really well. There was one part that was really creepy that I came around the door. And again, you can only like bring the scanner up. You want to have it up like the whole time. It's kind of like a flashlight. Was it Riddick? What? Oh, Doom. When Doom 3 came out, that you couldn't have the gun up and the flashlight up at the same time. And with this, it's like I know it's over there, but in the 5 seconds when I brought this thing down, it could have jumped up head over. You know, it could like grab me from above. And I thought it was in the next room, and I like went around to the doorway, and I literally just saw the tail, like in the door.
Love that.
And
I'm nervous just thinking about this.
And it's creepy because it whenever it's in front of you, you can kind of sense it, but whenever it's behind you, it starts beeping. It freaks out, and like the system like always tries to warn you in that regard that it's like you need to know it's behind you because you're not going to see it. You're only going to see it if you bring up your scanner and then recognize it's right behind you. At the very end, another thing that like could be a cheap trick. I don't know how many times they're going to do it in the game. They're like, you have to not fight the thing, but like you have to like run past it. Like there's nothing you can do. And it actually made sense in the story because I was trying to get power to this door to get to the airlock to get to another part of the ship. And I open up this door and make a lot of noise, and like air starts sucking out of this door, and like and lights start flashing, and the alien comes over and be like, what the hell's going on? And so this alien's like looking in the door, and it like walked in the room at one point, and I'm just like, I gotta go in that room, and then walked out and was looking around, and like I could definitely sense that it was like pissed. It's like something opened this door, there's something here, and I haven't eaten in 2 hours, you know. It's like, where is this thing? And so it was kind of creepy that like it wasn't, I had to wait for it to go away. I had to wait for it to get a certain distance from the door that I was like, okay, and then just sprinted, and the second I got out of cover, it screamed and started running. And
so it feels like it has life to it? Did it feel smart, or does it feel like, oh, that's just the computer after me, or did it feel like, wow, this thing is a living, breathing alien hunting me down?
Yeah, I think you really have to explore the full breadth of the game in multiple different types of environments to really get the sense of like how that AI works. It's absolutely terrifying looking. Like I said, most of the time you're only getting like a glimpse of it, and the fact that that's creepy from if you're shooting a movie, that's always a great way to shoot the monster where you can barely see it, but like it's a gameplay mechanic. This thing has line of sight, and it was definitely something where that E3 demo was really tough, and like there were parts where I'm like, man, it's in another room. I'm just gonna run for it, and like, nope. The second you make noise, like it'll find you.
Brandon Jones, I love how hyped you are right now over Alien Isolation.
It's a creepy game. It's gorgeous. Again, the shadows were really great. It was a fun dynamic demo. At the end, you were on a ship and it spiraled out of control, and so we were like spinning and spinning and spinning as you had to like get to this one door and shut something off. And so I'm like trying not to notice, but you like look out the window and stars are just flying by, and so I actually got like a little bit of vertigo, and so definitely felt very physical. Like when I was walking down a ladder, it wasn't like, okay, you're like staring at the ladder in like a perfect shot the whole time. It kind of like the camera moved with her hands as she was like moving down.
Did the environments feel varied at all, or was it more of just
pretty much same old thing? Yeah, it definitely felt like the environments from E3, but again, like more enemies, more environments. Which is what we want to see.
Do you speculate that you might get off the space station and end up on a
who
planet
knows
somewhere, or what do you think the odds of that are?
I mean, if it's a tried and true alien film, things are probably not going to work out for all of these people. That would actually be a huge surprise if she dies at the end of the game. If you actually don't make it through, because that would fit in with lore. Yeah. Because in Aliens she didn't know her.
Or in the special edition though, there is a picture of her old.
Oh right. Oh yeah, that's right. Oh yeah.
So,
but again, that's special edition.
Yeah.
Do they have to stick to something that technically was not in the theatrical release?
That's true.
There were. I mean, technically in the Alien special edition, they show Tom Skerritt's character. And they basically denounce the whole concept of a queen. It's that like there is no queen. You take a person and you cocoon that person, and that person becomes an egg. Alien vs Predator for the Atari. That was the system that you like, and then over time they become an egg, and then the facehugger comes out of that. It's the circle of life. James Cameron came in and was like, bah, gotta have a giant alien. Clearly, I'm James Cameron. We gotta do this. I gotta get Stan Winston. We gotta make something. Whether they're gonna include the special edition stuff, but that's that's where it was inspired from. Who knows? Not to hype you up any more than you need to be hyped up, Huber, but it was pretty fun, and I'm damn happy that I made it through it without dying once.
Good job.
So hopefully more coming soon.
Yes.